Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome to the War Room. This is War Room Pandemic. We're on Capitol Hill in the old Breitbart Embassy. It's Saturday, the 30th of May, the year of our Lord 2020. Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon. We're here for another special. It's a Saturday, and we're Descent into Hell Part 7. Seems like only yesterday we started this, guys. Now we're in the 7th week of doing this. Descent into Hell Part 7, the crisis in Hong Kong. We've got a full show to you today for voices of people from Hong Kong and from mainland China that are here to represent exactly what's going on, what the stakes are in China, what the stakes are for the people of Hong Kong, these amazing patriots. And we've said for it comes up on next 4 June will be the anniversary when Miles Guo and I started doing the broadcast into Hong Kong and into China about this revolt that took place in Hong Kong. It started on a Sunday. It started as a peaceful protest. I think 3 or 4 million people showed up. Hong Kong's only got 7 million. The Chinese Communist Party vapor locked. I mean, they absolutely locked up. And now we're at a centerpiece of a geopolitical crisis. This pandemic, the economic crisis that triggered the financial crisis. Every day of the week, 6 days a week, we're on that in War Room Pandemic. We do these specials to look at it from the lens of the Chinese people that are oppressed by this dictatorship. And on Friday, the President of the United States, yesterday, the President of the United States went into the Rose Garden, flanked by his top advisors. Even got Wilbur Ross up from Florida. Somebody woke Wilbur up and got Wilbur up to watch this or to be up there. You had Navarro, had Wilbur Ross, had Mike Pompeo, had Steve Mnuchin, Secretary of Treasury, the starting lineup of the Trump administration. And the president either threw down or didn't throw down hard enough. It's kind of a split decision on what the pundits think. I care what Greg Manns and Jack Maxey think. So, Jack, you're an old China hand. You're on December 26th. You're the first guy, the first foreign devil to give a heads up that there was a SARS outbreak somewhere in central China. What do you think? How do you assess what the president did in the Rose Garden?
I don't think anybody's ever heard the president speak this way to China directly. I think he was deadly serious. I don't think that there was any gamesmanship at all. He said, my announcement today will affect the full range of agreements we have with Hong Kong. Actions to revoke Hong Kong's preferential treatment as a separate customs and travel territory from the rest of China. He said also that he does not think that anything, very little, will be left on the table. He sounds to me like he's out for bear.
You've seen the Committee on the Present Danger. We laid out 12 actions that should be taken, and doing a bonus, which was take the Chinese Communists and political communications. One of the things, you're also a Pennsylvania guy. What the president said, how is that going to play in the heartland of this country for the people with manufacturing jobs, et cetera? Do they take this as just more talk, or is this something they haven't seen before at any president?
This bold action is going to be one of the defining moments of this election cycle.
You think so?
Absolutely. Southwestern Pennsylvania, the Northeast, the jobs that have gone away because of our reliance on China, those people were impacted, and they see this bold action, and they're going to come out in droves.
Now, why is it there's some people saying, hey, Trump was obviously upset. He's got Minneapolis on his mind. He's tried the Twitter thing to divert the attention into Twitter. That's not quite working out, right? He's got this thing that he's CNN's Chiron's got. Trump is suggesting or pushing people to have violence against the protesters or the demonstrators or the looters, however you want to describe it. And all he did, he found an easy punching bag to his buddy Xi, and he went out there and he gave 3, 4, 5 minutes of hot talk and talked about a lot of stuff he's gonna do. Then dropped the mic and walked off with no questions because he didn't want to be pressed on details. And the big tell is the market initially went up. So, Jack Maxey, you're savvy. You worked on Wall Street for many decades, right? In good times and bad.
The market was 350 down when he began talking, and we thought, oh my gosh, this thing's going to slide.
On a Friday afternoon.
On a Friday afternoon where people were a little bit worried because we'd had such a good week, right? You know, people don't want to go into the weekend with all this doubt. And it actually went up. At one point, it was positive. It ended the day down 55. So, or it's now at 55. It's not.
But don't they think that that's the tell that this was happy talk?
No, I think that the tell is that this has probably been priced into it. Think about it. A lot of the companies that are getting crushed because of their Chinese exposure have already taken it on the chin. I think that what you're also seeing, and I think that we can take some credit for this, you're starting to see the American people realize that this fight is really about the American character, right? We are a country based upon morality, much as we might pretend not to be when we chase the almighty dollar. But the average American knows that in his heart, this country is based upon morality and that we cannot participate in this criminality in China any longer.
That's a question for you guys. We have said from day one that these are the Patriots of 1775. That these kids are actually giants, and you're gonna meet some of these giants today. The stories are unbelievable. As we prep this show to get ready throughout the week, the stories are absolutely incredible. I mean, I know we've heard some heart-rending stories for the Chinese people on both religious observance of how their day-to-day life is, what it's like to live in back of the firewall, all of that. But today, to hear really from these kids who have been in the street as peaceful protesters, part of the umbrella movement, to some of them are hardcore insurgents today, and they're going to refuse to give up, and you'll hear it from their own voice.
Well, I mean, the guy yesterday who said on our show, it was very moving. I think we're going to hear from him again today. He said, we're never going to give up. We're prepared to die.
Well, he said prepared to die and prepared to take 20 years in prison. I mean, this is extraordinary stuff. Are the American people moved by that? Do you think that they understand that this is what this is about, is our values, and that this is a fight for what freedom and democracy has always meant? Or is this what the America First movement was trying to stop, this sucked in? Because didn't we hear some of this from President Bush in the early 2000s? We got to bring democracy to Afghanistan. That didn't work out so well, did it?
Well, I think we're not quite as naive as we were in 2000. I think that we've all realized today, we went out there and fought the good fight, but we've realized, I think, that it was probably not the best move that we ever made in history. The American soldier kept his honor. He never lost in the battlefield. We've done this before. We will recover, and I'm glad that we're pulling out, but I think that the wake-up call was, hey, democracy wasn't going to work in Afghanistan when we're controlling it. I do think that many people thought for 20 years that China was going to become more of a reformist country. And we've seen since Xi's been in power for the last, say, 6-7 years, it really has become much more oppressive than it was a decade ago.
Is that us fooling ourselves? I mean, we did the same thing in the Soviets. You go back and look at the great war that President Reagan fought to really bring this to victory, not to just go along with it. You heard when Reagan got there, what you have to do is you have to reach out to the reformers. You have to reach out to the liberals in the Soviet Union. And after it was all over, we realized a lot of that was just fake. That was to get the World Council of Churches and all these peace movements that said, we got to work with these guys because they're really reformers there. And at the end of the day, it's all KGB.
And then we recognize that the World Council of Churches is actually WCKGB, right?
Well, that's my point, that they're all front organizations, but that everything that was supposed to be reformer was all either totally phony or had no power. That you have reformers they would send to these Western conferences and make liberals feel better, but they had no stroke inside the Soviet Union, inside the Politburo, inside the decision. Isn't that what they push forward Lee He, and they push forward? Remember, one of the reasons we're in this situation, and President Trump is so angry, for a year and a half, after being the first guy that braced him up, for a year and a half, they worked with him every day on the centerpiece of what his first term accomplishment was going to be, which was the trade deal. Lighthizer-Trump trade deal in May of 2019 was a 200-page document that went into as Navarro calls them, the 7 original sins of the CCP's economy: state-owned industries, the forced technology transfers, everything to do, every different aspect, and they had both visibility, accountability, and enforceability to take care of that and integrate the Chinese Communist Party and their economy into the world system. They walked away from that. They walked away from that. At the same time, they said, we're going to different tech standards. We are essentially going to walk away from this, and we don't care, right? We're going to have a separate system than the West, and it's the West problem.
Well, I think one of the big problems historically is that the American character is somewhat naive. Mainly, I think, because we're optimistic in our nature, and we tend to think that other people think like us. I think one of the great things about travel and going around the world is finding out that that's not the case. So I do think that when Americans may start out naive, but when they have their eyes open, they become,
That's really the other three turnings. If this is the great fourth turning in the revolution, it took us a long time to get there. 20, 30 years of this thing going back and forth, and it finally reaches the head. Same with the Civil War. Civil War brewed. American people don't want to go to war. Same thing with World War II. I keep reminding people, we didn't declare war on Hitler. He declared war on us. After Pearl Harbor, it wasn't a joint war. It was 2 days later. We still hadn't declared war when Hitler, boom, because the United States has always been very hesitant. Once we go, we're in, right? Once we go, we're in. But it's very slow to kind of anger. And I think the last 20 years of this fiasco in the Middle East has gotten people much more cynical about engagement. Is this Greg Manns? I keep saying this is 1938 and this is Czechoslovakia. If you don't stand up, you do not stand up to the Chinese today, you're going to inexorably be drawn into either Taiwan, the South China Sea, up on the border with India and China. Somewhere you're going to get sucked into some sort of conflict. Do you think it's 1938? Is that a false analogy?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. And to expand on what Jack was saying, when America gets punched in the face, we punch back 2 times harder and are decisive in what we do.
Is this a punchback? Is Manns right? Is the president punching back, or is he trying to? Because, hey, the rhetoric was fine, but it was a drop the mic moment, right? He went through a bunch of things, but he didn't say, I'm pulling out, I'm starting the process. A lot of this was starting the process of, I agree, coming across his lips, a president of the United States, with the range of things he was talking about. And particularly, a lot of this is going against all those guys on Wall Street that are sitting there telling him nonstop, you can't do any of this thing. Is this Greg Manns' hey, you punch me, I'm going to punch you back twice as hard?
Well, I think one of the things that's kind of a problem here is obviously we're not interested in a hot war over Hong Kong. I don't see that happening as strategically, tactically. It doesn't make any sense. But the president's hands are tied because the Congress and the Senate passed a law in December saying that we have till the end of this month. The Secretary of State has to make a determination as to whether or not Hong Kong has autonomy.
Why do you think it ties his hands?
Well, because the president has to follow the law.
Well, I mean, it should be a benefit. He can sit there and say, "Hey, I've got both houses of Congress." Remember, in December, it was 100-0 in the Senate and 419-1. Thank you, Brother Massey out there in Kentucky, from being unanimous.
Well, I think his hands are tied because he's going to have to follow through with what he said. I mean, the law is pretty clear. Pompeo has already certified that they lack autonomy, which is written into the law, and now the president has till the end of the month to pull the trigger.
You're listening to and watching Descent into Hell Part 7. By the way, we've got almost 9 million downloads on the podcast, over 100 million views on all the different distribution platforms. You can get us everywhere, YouTube, Facebook, America's Voice, also on Newsmax. You can see it everywhere, hear it everywhere. We're ubiquitous throughout the world. G Media, GTV will be broadcasting this later, subtitled in Mandarin. We're also in ham radio, shortwave radio, AM stations all over the world picked up. We want hashtag WarRoom-Pandemic. Let us know. We want your feedback, we want your questions. We're going to return with the voices of Hong Kong in a moment.
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's super strong articulating arm that's attached with an ingenious ball and socket so it can swivel and rotate for the perfect angle. And look how strong it holds. The mirror is precision crafted with 10 times magnification and crystal clear optics. And with a soft glow LED ring, you'll get picture-perfect lighting to highlight every detail. Flexible mirror makes shaving, applying makeup, hairstyling, grooming, and accessorizing easier than ever before. Plus, men, listen up. The 10 times magnification makes it perfect for giving your beard a detailed trim. Whatever you need to do, Flexible Mirror comes to you. Plus, the contemporary chrome accents add a lovely modern touch to any room. Stop struggling to put in your delicate contacts and let Flexible Mirror come to you, so it's much easier to do. Similar mirrors can cost as much as $100, and they don't even come to you. But you can get Flexible Mirror for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. We guarantee you'll love the Flexible Mirror so much that it comes with our 90-day no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the best part. We give you free shipping on your entire order. That's right, free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-987-6183. That's 1-800-987-6183, or order online at tryflexiblemirror.com.
Hi, Linda. Looks like you've got a prescription to fill. Any idea how much that's going to cost in there? The exact same drug that's $10 at this pharmacy is $150 at this one. GoodRx finds prices and discount coupons on every prescription. Just input the drug name and instantly find savings at virtually every pharmacy in America.
Next. What can I do for you? Here's my prescription, and I have a coupon from GoodRx. Nice price.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions with GoodRx.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic, A Descent into Hell, Part 7, The Crisis in Hong Kong. Our guest now is, and let me, right before we're going to bring in Jack Leung, he's a pro-democracy movement frontline protester. That's his nom de jour, so it's not his real name. But before we bring Jack in, I just want Maxie and Greg Manns. Yesterday, the president in the Rose Garden has been kind of controversial. Some people said, "Hey, it's fantastic. It's the first time any president's really confronted these guys." Other people saying, "It was nice, but it's more Trump. Trump's a lot of talk, not a lot of action." Jack, the specifics that excited you, because you're sitting there saying, "Hey, I really liked what I heard from President Trump. I liked his demeanor. I liked the drop mic. Right, this is it. Boom." What were the 2 or 3 things that most impressed you?
Well, number one, he pointed out that the whole world was excited that Hong Kong was going to be one country, 2 systems, and there was a lot of optimism about that 25 years ago. He says that the Communist Chinese have dashed that optimism for the world, that they have broken their agreement with the world. I think it's very, very aggressive. You got to remember, this is a guy who's couched every single press conference with discussions of China, with talk about his friendship for Chairman Xi. There was no friendship comments at all.
What did they say? He said something about state security. He said something. What did he say about state security being involved in Hong Kong?
Well, he says that there's a chance that, does this mean that state security is going to expand itself into Hong Kong? And I think that's something very serious that everybody should be worried about. And I'll try and find his direct quote. He says, China claims it is protecting national security, but the truth is that Hong Kong was secure and prosperous as a free society. Beijing's decision reverses all of that, and it extends the reach of China's invasive state security apparatus into what was formerly a bastion of liberty.
A bastion of liberty. Now, I want to talk to one of those patriots right now, Jack Leung. He is that's his nom de jour. He's from Hong Kong. He's one of the protesters. Talk to us about the tactics of the protesters. You know, what the Chinese Communist Party are telling us, Jack, is that what started out as peaceful became a group of hooligans and a group of criminals. They say that you and your friends are criminals, that you guys are bad guys. The President of the United States is saying, hey, we're seeing the involvement of the state security apparatus of this totalitarian dictatorship now get involved in Hong Kong. Walk our audience through what's the reality, what's the truth.
Okay, so like you said, one of the really interesting things with the protests is for the umbrella movement in 2014 in Hong Kong, there was just a total information blackout in the mainland. They just literally, nobody in the mainland knows about it even today that it happened. There was the only people who would have known were mainlanders in Hong Kong who might have accidentally stumbled across the protests, if you see what I mean. But this time, they made the decision to go public with the mainland Chinese public when the liaison office in Hong Kong, which is kind of, if you imagine it like China's embassy in Hong Kong, was attacked by protesters. And that night, they splashed the photos all over the mainland media, like the photos of the flag being torn down and the emblem being defaced. So in terms of the China-wide thing, that's the sort of key difference. And ever since then, they have just portrayed us as these rioters, basically. But in terms of the reality on the ground, the police are the instigators of every single, violent act that takes place. And it sort of, we never go out sort of seeking to do any of this or anything like that. It's always something that is done. Self-defense is the wrong word, but it's done in reaction to the police, if you see what I mean. So, we don't sort of, with Molotov cocktails, etc., we don't throw them because we want to see a police officer, get hurt or burned by them. We do it as a reflex response to stop them arresting us, to stop them, being able to break us up so easily. That's the sort of reality of things and why they turn violent. Yeah.
So here's what for this, we have a world audience here, and particularly a very strong audience in the United States and then later in the day in mainland China when it gets blown through the firewall. Walk us through, you're a young man in his early 20s. You've told me in prepping for this show that a lot of the people you see out there are 16, 17, 18 years old. How did this young group of people, when in the rest of the world, young people are tough to motivate towards politics? I've spent many years in Hong Kong. The one thing always got me about Hong Kong, they were totally apolitical. They only were worried about one thing: working, family, and making money. Okay? Walk us through your journey. How did you get involved in this, and how did you become one of the leaders in this?
Well, you're absolutely right, first of all, about there's a sort of stereotype of Hong Kong as a sort of famously pragmatic, right? And it's a very accurate stereotype in terms of the history. It's very, very accurate. And so my previous involvement prior to June, when the protest started last year, I used to work for a pro-democracy political party during my summers because I'm still at university. But I used to do a lot of work for them. And then when the protest sort of started and, took a sort of violent turn, I grouped up with some of my friends who I was at school with. And I spoke on your show yesterday how basically the way I would always describe our organization of frontliners is it's the same with insurgent groups in terms of a cell structure, right? So the only frontline activists that I know are the people who I went to school with, who I've, made contact with and, are out on the front line with. I don't know anybody else at all.
Hold on, hang on, because this is going to blow people's heads up. You've had millions of people in peaceful protest, but there have been hundreds of thousands, if not millions, out there in the protests that turn violent because of police activity and then what we call the insurgency. And the Chinese Communist Party continues to tell the world this is an organized. You got Miles Guo, you got Steve Bannon, you got the black hand of the CIA, you got British military intelligence. This is foreigners. In fact, the national security law specifically that they're coming up with says this is to keep the foreign devils out, the foreign intelligence services out that are helping organize these naive kids, and that a lot of these naive kids are really a criminal element that are very organized. You're telling our audience that this is basically what we call in economics a self-organizing system, that you don't know really more than your own cell of 6 or 8 schoolmates, the lads that kind of hang together. You also have your thing that in these hundreds of thousands, they're made up of little cells of 6 to 8 people.
Yeah, so the frontline cells are, and there aren't hundreds of thousands of frontline protesters. The sort of number I would put it at might be sort of anywhere from sort of 5,000 to 10,000 would be a sort of estimate, maybe sort of 20,000 as an upper bound. But yeah, like I don't know anyone else who is like a frontliner in this sense. And like I say, it's just like with insurgent groups in terms of, whether it's Islamist groups in the West, so, ISIS or anything like that, they operate in cells because, otherwise the state will just crush you. They can infiltrate, etc. So that's why we do it in that sense. Yeah.
But you're fighting for democracy. You're fighting for the original deal. But state security, they're saying you're guilty of sedition. You're guilty of sedition against China as a country. You're guilty of sedition against the Chinese Communist Party, that you're ungrateful, and that you 10 or 20,000 at the very vanguard have led other naive students into this. What's your response to that?
Well, it's just ridiculous. And also, sorry, I didn't actually address your foreign forces point. I've really got to do that in the last question. I mean, it is just such a ludicrous accusation to make. Like, because the thing is as well, where they say with the CIA, like, as if the CIA doesn't have like Asian guys working for them who could blend in on the front lines with us. You know what I mean? It's just so ridiculous. Like, they think, oh yeah, they're going to pick this like all-American white guy or whatever, like something like that. It's just a ridiculous accusation. But no, like, of course, the evidence that state media produces is literally their evidence is, oh, look, here's a picture of a white guy at the protest. And it might be a journalist, it might be a bystander. It's just, do you know what I mean? It's just so ridiculous. And there was a great thing I saw the other day, because they always try and pull the silent majority card on us, right? Which is just rubbish on so many levels. So I can explain to you like recent survey statistics from the government's own reports, which demonstrate that that's just complete horseshit, really. But one thing that I thought I saw on social media the other day, which was really good, is, they just had the National People's Congress gathering in Beijing. They got a photo of the Hong Kong delegates to their outside, I think it was the hotel that they were staying in, with a big banner saying, "We support the national security law." And there was someone put on one of our social media sites in Hong Kong. It's a picture of like 100 guys in suits, and Global Times is describing it as Hong Kong society, and then a photo of 2 million people on the streets, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, Western organized radicals." Like, it's just, it really made me laugh. Like, and it's so true. You know what I mean? It's so true. It's very funny.
Let's talk about this. What they did in Beijing with the Hong Kong contingent. They passed these national security laws. It's really arrest first, question later. Is that the reality? That's as being positioned by you guys. Is that the reality of what the CCP is going to do now?
Well, yes. So you've got to remember, obviously, the protests have been paused during the pandemic for obvious, reasons. Because obviously it started in China, and Hong Kong is obviously right on the edge of mainland. So we rode that first wave, as it were. But basically, the policing tactics over the course of the protest last year was getting towards arresting more and more people. And just a couple of days ago, as the protest basically resumed in response to the new national security laws being passed, the security operation outside the Legislative Council, where actually the new proposed national anthem law was being debated, so inside our Congress, basically, our Legislative Council, I cannot even describe to you. You can go on Twitter or social media and look at the policing operation. They literally, for blocks, just walled it off. So they made any attempt to disrupt the meeting, because we stormed the Legislative Council in July of last year, and people wanted to basically do it again to stop the law passing by literally like physically invading the chamber, right? But we weren't able to because of the policing operation. It was just tens of thousands of officers. Like, Hong Kong is one of the largest police forces ratio to the population in the entire planet. Like, we've got 6 million people, and I think it's 30-something thousand officers.
Hey, Jack, we got to take a short commercial break when you hang with it. Jack Lund from Hong Kong, part of the vanguard of the protest movement of the insurgency. This is Stephen K. Bannon. Descent into Hell, Part 7, The Crisis in Hong Kong. It is Saturday, 30 May, the year of our Lord 2020. We'll be back in a moment.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The copper fit energy socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copper fit energy socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do with CopperFit. I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your CopperFit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, CopperFit Energy Socks.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that? I should.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Fortune favors boldness. You're going to hear from a lot of bold people today. This is very uncertain times. And in uncertain times, entrepreneurs thrive. The way you thrive is to have the tools at your disposal to help you become a success. NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. They are the sponsors of War Room Pandemic. We're very honored to have them. We get approached by a lot of people, but we wanted to partner with them because of the simple reason that they're out there to help entrepreneurs. And the only way we're going to get through this on a global basis is entrepreneurship. One of the greatest places in the world for entrepreneurs is Hong Kong. It's incredibly sad what has gone on there. Jimmy Lai and some of Jimmy Lai's partners, we've actually got a tape we're going to try to play in the next segment, this heartfelt, really thanks to the young people of Hong Kong. Jimmy Lai was in on 60 Minutes back in, I think, October or November. And Jimmy Lai, as you know, has been, the guys have been on our show many times of Apple News, the paper, the Chinese language paper, CCP paper in both Hong Kong and Taiwan. Jimmy Lai said that we have failed. Our generation failed. We did not take the Communist Party on, the CCP, after the signing of the deal. We knew they were going to try to retrade us. We allowed them to go bite by bite, what the communists have always done and the fascists have always done. Take a little bite, take a little more. We didn't stop them. We didn't stand up to them as they eroded our liberties, eroded our freedoms. And when push came to shove, a year ago in the Tiananmen Square, remember, 4 June is the anniversary. It's the 30th anniversary of Tiananmen Square. And in the United States, you had small kind of commemorations of it by some of the Chinese expatriates. You didn't have a big outpouring. One of the reasons is I think Nancy Pelosi, a lot of people in the back of that movement, whether it was Trump derangement syndrome or whatever it was, kind of lost momentum. And obviously in Beijing and in China, you had nothing. In Hong Kong, millions of people took to the streets. And what happened, that became a more active protest. The police started to crack down on it. The PLA got brought in. It became an insurgency. And in this, Jimmy Lai said on 60 Minutes, he broke down and cried and said, we didn't have the guts to stand up to him. The young people did. The young people stood up to the Chinese Communist Party, and they're eventually going to win their freedom. This video that hopefully we can't show you on AVN or on Newsmax, we're going to play the audio. Jimmy Lai's one of his other partners, a guy looks like in the 70s and 80s, has an incredibly moving video. And what he says is he talks about the fact of high school and college kids that would not buckle. And if you see this video, it's shocking. The beatings, the rubber bullets, all that. We can play the video. Let's try to. Can we play it right now? Let's play this video right now. It's incredibly moving. Our team at AVN. Let's go ahead and roll.
Mr. President, I want to thank my friend Jimmy Lai for producing and delivering this YouTube letter to you. On behalf of all the free citizens of Hong Kong, the video you're watching now is showing the little-known leaders of the Hong Kong's heroic freedom movement for the last 12 months. These teenagers are mainly high school and college kids. They are fighting to make Hong Kong a home of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. No different from the founding fathers of the United States of America. 9,000 of them were arrested, all of them beaten, some raped and murdered, and all of them are waiting to be prosecuted. They will not be able to finish their education and will never land a decent job in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, out of the 1.4 billion Chinese, only these few thousand kids have the guts to stand up and fight and sacrifice for the universal value held by the free world.
This is what this is about. I mean, this is incredible.
It's hard not to get choked up.
It's a handful. It's a couple of thousand high school and college kids, Jack Leung being part of them. Look at that video. We're going to play that again later. They're beaten like dogs, rubber bullets, gas, tear gassed, rubber hoses, right? Water cannons. And he said 1.4 billion people, and he included himself and Jimmy Lai in that only these kids had it. And this is a victory. What happened in the Rose Garden yesterday, the start of this process, Greg Mann's talked about people in Southwest Pennsylvania. Your jobs have been ripped out because of Wall Street and the global corporations. Finally, a president of the United States, and some people said it wasn't enough, but it's a start. He got up there in the Rose Garden and said, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. The reason is those couple of thousand kids ripped the mask off so the whole world can see what the Chinese Communist Party is about. Wall Street, their media minions, their spin meisters, their lobbyists, all the money they've put in here, all the lies they've told for decade after decade after decade, and we've accepted it. And what stopped it? Jack Leung and these kids. And you see that video. They're beaten like dogs. And what did Jimmy Lai's partner say? He said they're not going to give up. They would not back down.
And Jimmy Lai, in his message before the video, was quite impressive, too. He said, Mr. President, Hong Kong needs help. And we are looking forward to the day the world stands together against the oppressive CCP regime. God bless every one of us.
Well, I want to go back to Jack Leung, and who's one of at the vanguard of this resistance and fighting. And I say these guys are the patriots like 1775. You've read the legends and heroics of Paul Revere and Sam Adams and John Adams and President Washington, George Washington, right? All of it that stood against the British. And now you're seeing a real hero. You can't see him because we can't show his face because his family will be locked up and put in prison. This is the kind of guys we're dealing with, right? You can't see, they can't use his real name. You can't use his real name because his family will be locked up. He's not afraid of himself. He said on our show yesterday, I'll die for this. He says, I know I'll probably end up going to prison for 20 years. But he's fighting for freedom, right? How many kids in this country, the volunteers who go overseas are fabulous. My daughter was the 101st Airborne. The kids at West Point, they're amazing. How many other kids would take to the streets to actually fight for freedom? This is what this guy did against the totalitarian dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party. Jack, you heard the President of the United States in the Rose Garden yesterday. Be blunt. Is that tell us? Is that help your cause in Hong Kong? Is that what you were looking for? Is that the message that you want to see from the West and from the President of the United States?
Well, yes, it's a great start. I would say it's a really great start. He really did let rip, like quite apart from any of the announcements and stuff. Like he really didn't mess around. And the special status, trade status ending, that's it's a painful pill to swallow. I take no sort of relish in watching Hong Kong's economy get trashed, which is what's going to happen. To be honest, I take no sort of I don't relish that at all. We have no natural resources in Hong Kong. We're just a trading port, so we don't have anything to fall back on. We are just a financial services hub and sort of spin-off industries from that. But just on that, we need help clearly from the West. And that's something we need. But I would say one thing, that we're under no illusions that if we are going to, as our sort of the slogan of the protest, liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time, if we are going to liberate Hong Kong, we're under no illusions that we have to do this ourselves, right? They're not going to be, United States Marines sort of being parachuted into Hong Kong to do it for us, right? We're under absolutely no illusions. We're not asking for that either, right? But what we're saying is that, the West needs to basically stand against the CCP and draw up battle lines and make it very clear. I said to you yesterday that we need to move from the language, when the West needs to move from the language of, we are concerned about this, we are concerned about, freedom being dissipated in Hong Kong, to actually language of saying, we will not tolerate this anymore. And if you do pursue this, then you will pay a very heavy price, whether it's economic or otherwise. And the great thing with President Trump is, as a president who's prepared to sort of, really sound off sometimes, make some threats and stuff. Like, this is something that, other world leaders won't do and other past presidents. And people will criticize him for sometimes. But, why not actually just turn up the rhetoric a bit with China when it comes to Hong Kong? Because he hasn't done it yet, actually. He's done it with China, but he hasn't done it in Hong Kong yet. And a real threat would not go amiss. I tell you that. It really would not go amiss.
Jack, let me ask you, the foreign policy establishment, Richard Haas and all these great thinkers, and they're saying, well, it should be a graduated response. You shouldn't overreact here. We're concerned. What we heard the whole last week is that we're very concerned with this national security law.
Yeah.
So those are all those are all our betters. Those are all the guys who say, hey, Bannon's always got his hair on fire. He's got this podcast and he's talking to these guys. But this is another group of right wing nuts that have hooked up with a bad element in Hong Kong. What we should do as a country is be concerned. We should start to monitor this. What would you say to the foreign policy establishment in the United States that has allowed the Chinese Communist threat to all free people metastasize over the last couple of decades?
Well, I say that at every turn they've been wrong, haven't they? Like the whole point when after the Tiananmen massacre, when the door was opened again to China in the early 90s to sort of eventually leading to joining the WTO and other things, like the whole idea. And I remember Bill Clinton, the rationale for the policy was, well, if we open the door to China in this, they will be encouraged to democratize and they will go down the road of reform and stuff. And I wouldn't say it was a terrible idea to do that at the time. Like there was a logic to it and everything, and it was certainly, economically looked beneficial to the US, I guess. But clearly that has failed. The policy of engagement has failed. And, there's a difference between calling for a war with China and actually saying that, the West needs to adopt a policy that recognizes the regime for what it is. I have got friends of mine who, are in prison or are now facing charges and stuff, some for relatively minor offenses and some for offenses like rioting charges that will see them in prison for 10 years. And, and this is the reality of this regime, like what's happening in Xinjiang. One of the slogans we say in Hong Kong is, Xinjiang yesterday, Hong Kong today, and maybe Taiwan tomorrow. Like, who knows what the future holds for them. And, they've got a great president in President Tsai who takes no crap when it comes to China, But yeah, like, I think that the foreign policy establishment in the West should just sort of maybe just accept they've called it completely wrong in the past, and they just need to sort of except that the policy of engagement has just failed. It just completely failed.
We want you to stay over for another segment, but we've got about a minute for you here in this segment. When you say fail, okay. Was this willful blindness? Or I tell you what, let's hold that and we'll get to that. I want to know if it was willful blindness of our political elites. This is a War Room Pandemic. You can get to us by hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want to hear your voice. This is Descent into Hell. This is the 7th edition. The crisis in Hong Kong. We have one of the leaders of the insurgency, one of the leaders of the cell, Jack Leung, is on the phone with us. We're going to return in just a minute. We're going to get to many more voices from Hong Kong in the next hour. Stephen K. Bannon, Jack Maxey, Greg Manns will be back in a moment.
On a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that? I should have. Call 833 Filter or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Fortune favors boldness. We're now in an incredibly uncertain time, and that means that you need to get the tools to mitigate risk. One of the tools of that is NetSuite by Oracle. If you're an entrepreneur, if your company's $1 million to $100 million in revenue, you need this tool. Even more, even if you're bigger than that, you need this tool. Remember, Oracle and NetSuite is the biggest software system online and in the cloud. And so they've got a 7-part analysis of as an entrepreneur, actions you need to take today. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon. It's up on the website. Go right there. Even if you don't have your own business today, you're thinking of doing it. NetSuite's the tool you're going to want to use. It walks you through how you have to think and what do you got to think about as an entrepreneur, from your financial modeling to your capital asset allocation and everything in between. NetSuite by Oracle. Okay, we got Jack Leung on from Hong Kong, a great hero. We're going to play the tape at the top of the hour again. Jack, Max, I know you've had a question you've been wanting to ask Jack Leung.
Jack, this is Jack here. Listen, I was curious to know, because I really have felt that our students in America, our young people in America, have not been made aware effectively about what's going on in Hong Kong. What can we do to bring your peers in America on our college campuses into the fold so that they can help you in this fight? Is there something, a message that you would like to give to them?
It's a good question. I'm not really sure, to be honest. There are lots of Hong Kongers at pretty much every American university, and there's been a lot of awareness raising. So I've just spent, because I'm currently right now in the UK, I've just done a semester abroad at a UK university. I'm a Hong Kong University student at University of Hong Kong, but I've just done a semester abroad. And I was amazed, the activism that we have on campus of Hong Kong students raising awareness of the situation. And so, I think more of that at every American college campus, because we have these political causes on campus, right, in the West that are celebrated things. You have what's the organization? Is it Turning Point in the US?
Yes, thing. Turning Point USA.
Yeah, I vaguely follow it and stuff. But I know that's an organization as opposed to a cause. But you have these kind of popular student causes and stuff, and I just hope that as the mainstream media continues to cover it, it becomes one of the sort of premier human rights issues in the world, which it should be for, everyone. And for a lot of people it is. But as to something specific, I'm not sure what you can really do with students apart from awareness raising, as it were. But it's a great question. Thanks.
In the UK, we've seen a lot of this in the United States, and we've had Hong Kong students actually talk to us and complain that the mainland students literally attack them and make rumors about them, tell the other American students that kid can't be relied upon, he's crazy, what he's talking about is wrong. And, our students are not necessarily the brightest bulbs in this, and they buy into what these mainland students are saying about the Hong Kong protests. Have you seen this kind of pushback in the UK on the university campuses by the mainland students against the Hong Kong students?
Well, yes, I have, but I would just say that, I think their arguments are so terrible, the whole pro-Beijing arguments, and also their pitch is really bad as well. They don't know how to make it. So the argument's terrible, and the presentation is too. But so I don't, it's really only a few randomers on the internet actually believe them. We are talking 0.01%, I think, of the population actually believe that argument. But in terms of the actual pushback, most mainland Chinese view us as rioters and terrorists. That is the rhetoric. And you can't blame them for thinking that if you analyze the media coverage, both on social media, through the state-owned media, and even the non-state media in China, because it's all, the line is the same, even if it's not state-owned, right? And you can't blame these.
Look, part of the line that they're using with the new laws they're putting in national security, Jack. They say they're going to break you guys. That they're going to break you. You guys are going to just crack this summer. You're going to try to have some resistance. You're going to crack this summer, no matter what the video says. And Martin Lai and these guys, all your heroism to date is not going to mean anything because they're going to break you. What do you say? What do you and the other insurgents say to that?
Well, I say this, right, and it sounds like a cliche, but I say just look at the past evidence, right, which is that every time they double down and they try and, pile more sort of, stones on our back and break us, all it does is just makes us angrier and angrier and angrier and makes our resolve even stronger. There is nothing that they could do. They could, even try and deploy the army or anything on the streets. And, our motto as well is be water. We're not kamikaze sort of bombers. So last week when the police presence outside the Legislative Council was over 10,000 police officers and barricades for blocks and blocks, we knew we were not going to get anywhere near the Legislative Council building that day. So we didn't go there. It's quite simple. We're not stupid or suicidal in that sense. What's the point in loads of us getting arrested if it's not going to serve any purpose, right? So, like I say, if the army were to come to Hong Kong, just for the sake of argument, I think it is quite some way down the line still. I wouldn't say this is not going to happen imminently, but suppose the PLA were to come in, right? We would just probably initially just sort of stay at home and see, right, okay, what the hell is going on here? And then you would have that American movie Red Dawn from the 1980s, when they're fighting the silver, really, I mean, seriously, literally like that. It's a great movie, actually. I've watched it a few times, but no, I really mean something like that, very literally. That's what would happen, sabotage attacks, that sort of thing. And they would say it was terrorism, but and this is the thing as well, the escalation we will have. There is going to be a massive escalation this summer. There is no doubt about it. If you're asking me what it is, I couldn't tell you because of the cell structure of our movement, right? I have no idea what other activists on the front line are thinking, or how organized they might be or whatever. The one thing I would say is, right, no reasonable person could ever accuse us of terrorism because, the defining feature of terrorism is you're targeting civilians, right? And that's just not our target ever. Do you know what I mean? It just, even if you disagree with the violence or whatever, they are legitimate targets, right? The police and, whoever else or whatever. But, it's the idea that any of our escalations could ever be considered by any reasonable person as terrorism is just ludicrous, So that's just, fact, really.
Jack, listen, thank you very much. We'll be watching all summer. You said there's going to be massive resistance to this, massive escalation. So we will watch that. The President of the United States has clearly come out now and said that he's on the side of freedom and democracy in Hong Kong. So we want to thank you. We want to thank you for your heroism and everything that your group does. Jack Long, that's his nom du jour. Another hero in the Hong Kong movement. This is Stephen K. Bannon, Descent into Hell Part 7. This is the special we've been doing every Saturday. War Room Pandemic. Short commercial break. We're going to be back with more voices from Hong Kong in a moment.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better.
Welcome to War Room Pandemic on the John Fredericks Radio Network, FM 99.1, 103.9 in Chicago, on America's Voice.news, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution that is now Channel Dish 219. And we want to thank the entire team out there in Colorado for helping us co-produce all the shows, and particularly these specials that get a little tough sometimes. We're bringing people throughout the world on here. Also, Newsmax TV now in 70 million homes. And throughout the world on Lexus.org. Also IRRS, and of course G News, G Media, and Mandarin later in the day. I want to thank all the international audience that listens in. Hashtag War Room Pandemic. You folks are lighting things up and getting more information to us every day. Remember, we're building a community here that can stand up for freedom and democracy throughout the known world. Okay, this is Descent into Hell, Part 7. Jack, you've got some thought about what we just heard in the last hour from Jack Lung, one of the leaders of the insurgency.
For all of our listeners out there who might have been doubting us talking about old 100 names being the deplorables, when you have one of the frontline protesters of the freedom movement in Hong Kong quoting Red Dawn from the 1980s, and he's seen it half a dozen times, people, our listeners, you know that you are on the same team.
No, that's Lao Beijing. That binds. And hey, he didn't say OK Boomer. That's an OK Boomer film. Interesting story. My partner, Bo Flynn, years ago, with Jeff Quatnitz and a team of us, had this management company called The Firm, had a production company. Bo eventually spun off and had his own production company. He got the rights and made the remake to Red Dawn that came out, I think, in 2007, 2008, was years ago. No, it must have been, I think I was running Breitbart at the time, so it must have been after 2012. Did the remake, and he's getting ready to release the film, and they made him pull it from distribution and recut it because it had CCP. It was Chi-Coms. They made him recut it and make them North Koreans. They would not put it in theaters because of the blowback. This is, this cultural aspect of it. We had Chris Fenton on the show on Friday, a film producer, the CCP. They're everywhere, and you see with Biden. Biden has been their big cheerleader for years and years and years. Tomorrow night on WABC at 7:00, we're going to have actually a special about the geopolitics of 2020 that Dave Ramaswamy, Jack Posobiec, Raheem Kassan, and myself are going to get into and try to structure that. But I want to go back. We've got so many voices of Hong Kong we're going to get in here. We got Wong going to come on next. We got Doctor Who. So many of these real fighters. I want to get to. I want to go back. We got this very special thing that one of the our listeners and viewers overseas got to us in the middle of the show. So can you show us this tape that AVN was so good about putting up? We're going to play the tape.
Mr. President, I want to thank my friend Jimmy Lai for producing and delivering this YouTube letter to you. On behalf of all the free citizens of Hong Kong, the video you're watching now is showing the little-known leaders of the Hong Kong's heroic freedom movement for the last 12 months. These teenagers are mainly high school and college kids. They are fighting to make Hong Kong a home of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. No different from the founding fathers of the United States of America. 9,000 of them were arrested, all of them beaten, some raped and murdered, and all of them are waiting to be prosecuted. They will not be able to finish their education and will never land a decent job in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, out of the 1.4 billion Chinese, only these few thousand kids have the guts to stand up and fight and sacrifice for the universal value held by the free world.
The universal values held by the free world, who related back to our founding fathers. He was clearly choked up at the end. This is that generation that made the deal with the CCP at the behest of the British. Right, it was really a Sino-British deal signed off by the United States. And I was in Hong Kong back in those days. I started going to Hong Kong back in the 70s as a naval officer. It was hugely controversial, but it was essentially the West was going to guarantee that this was going to work, that Hong Kongers are going to remain free and democratic. And you've seen what happened. We're so fascinated and honored to have Jack Leung in the first hour. And this is what we want to continue to show American people. This is what when Donald Trump said, nothing is inevitable, this is what he meant. It's human agency and human action that makes the difference. Even if you're in these huge historical moments, and we're in a huge historical moment, you can feel it at home. It's one of the reasons you watch this show. It's the reason you go in the hashtag #WarRoom-Pandemic. It's one of the reasons that you're engaged. You understand like the revolution and like the Civil War and like World War II, the Great Depression. Something is happening out there. When you see a president of the United States come into the Rose Garden, flanked by his power players in the cabinet, and throws down on the largest superpower out there besides the United States, you understand things have happened. When you see a tape like that, when Jimmy Lai, who is one of the most respected, he's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, one of the most respected guys in Hong Kong, goes on 60 Minutes and breaks down and cries because he wasn't tough enough. He wasn't smart enough. He didn't have the guts to do it. And they talk about high school and college kids. The range of these kids is from 16 to 22 or 23 years old. And what did the narrator say? There's one of Jimmy Lai's partners. That 9,000 arrested. He chose his words carefully. They have been raped and they've been murdered. Some of these young girls, teenage girls, have been raped when they're arrested by the PLA. They've been murdered. There's a bunch of missing people we don't know where they are. but for universal values. What did he say at the end? Of 1.4 billion Chinese, a couple of thousand. And this is everything in life. Everything in life starts with a couple of, did Jesus Christ not go in the first time by himself down to the water and to a couple of fishermen? Starts with one or two guys. You look throughout history, Plato, Socrates, Admiral Nelson, you look at every movement that's ever started. It's with a handful of people. This started with a couple of thousand high school kids. A couple of thousand high school kids basically stood up to the last totalitarian dictatorship of the 20th century. Remember, what we're doing now is we thought at first we had a short 20th century. From 1914, the Guns of August, until 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall. We now understand it wasn't the end of history. That Fukuyama and all the genius conservative historians at Stanford and these other places were just wrong. We weren't going to be a continuation of just easy of liberal values. It was going to become, we've had a tough 30 years. But we realized this is the unfinished work of the 20th century. This is the last of the dictatorships that stand, the last of the fascist, communist dictatorships. And you had a couple of thousand kids. I want to go now to our next guest, Wong. Wong is now a naturalized American citizen. He's from mainland China. And Wong, this is what in our and getting ready for the show that you impressed me so much. You said, hey, I'm not from Hong Kong. I'm from mainland China, and now I'm a citizen of the United States. But this is not about Hong Kong. This is about the CCP and how they operate. Can you explain to our American audience what that means?
All right. So, hey, Mr. Bannon, good to be here. So, before jumping into that question, actually, I just want to express my appreciation for you. So, because actually, we know you have been blasted by the CCP actually on the CCTV for quite a few minutes, right? So, actually, just want you to know that you have we Chinese full respect. So, just want you to know, all right? So,
thanks, Wong. Appreciate it.
Yeah, back to your question. Yeah, I originally actually came from the mainland China, right? So now I live in the United States. Ironically, actually, I used to hold a view, actually, to be against the Hong Kong and the Hong Kong people, and sometimes actually against the U.S., right, United States, because the U.S. is always on the top list. Actually, it's a part of the doctrine, right? So now, actually, since after I came to the States, everything changed because actually all the information I used to that I can get here that I never get a chance to touch on when I was back in China, right? Especially actually after following the whistleblower movement under the Mao's course leadership, because all the information provided by Mao's actually was just beyond imagination, and I literally just rebuilt myself actually from inside out. But actually, it is understandable because actually why I hold such a view back in time, because actually literally all the stuff that I got touch on, and all the stuff that I can get from the online, are pretty much saying the exactly same thing. Like Hong Kong people ungrateful, and we provide them with food, with the water, and all the necessities, all kinds of stuff, and with cost next to nothing. It all made sense to me back then, and I fell into the trap. But I changed after I came here. So now, actually, about 10 years has already passed. I have been here for long. So now, just days ago, when I tried to talk to my friends back in China, they still live in mainland China, right? So I found a really interesting phenomena, because some of the people I talked to actually, I still have no idea what's going on in Hong Kong. And some of the others actually, they kind of have an idea what's going on in Hong Kong. But, actually when we talked, I found out that all the information they obtained are just fake, not true. And, some others simply just refuse to talk about it because they're worried. I mean, what if they're going to bust it, right? What is going to happen to their families? So I understand that part. So this is really what's going on in China. So a lot of people are still left in the dark. So this is what's going on in mainland China. So just want to give you an example, all right? So just before go ahead.
But hang on, let me just ask you: is it because the lack of information? Is the firewall? Or are you brainwashed? Why is it that the mainland Chinese people think the Hong Kong people are ungrateful and the American people are bad?
All right. So actually, this is actually what I grew up with this kind of idea in the education system. What I mean there is actually U.S. is always on the top of the list. I mean, even the school teachers actually are talking about this on the daily basis. Pretty much the U.S. people, all the capitalism is in the textbook for the students to hate, and this is how we were raised up. And back to your question, is that because of firewall, the brainwashing? I would say it's actually the combination. So, just to give you an example, we actually Chinese are really heavy on the WeChat and the Weibo, right? And WeChat is pretty much like Twitter here in the United States, but on a much larger scale, right? And it has 1 billion monthly active users, and Weibo is pretty much the same. So I searched up the Hong Kong, the keyword, in those two platforms. Actually, so many articles popped up. But you will be amazed to see that there's no single article talking about what the real purpose of the Hong Kong movement, what the Hong Kong people are really looking for or fighting for. And you have no appearance in those articles about the 5 demands, not one less. None. I mean, this is amazing. So what about those articles showing up? Those articles are pretty much saying the pro-Beijing tone. What they're talking about is, hey, those Hong Kongers are pretty much just like a bunch of rioters, and they're trying to break away from the mainland China. But for the people from the free world, we all know that's fake. That's totally untrue, right? Because in the 5 demands, there's no such a thing. So,
hey, Wong, can you just hang on for a second? We're going to bring you back. I want to bring you back right after the break. We're going to take a short commercial break here. We're going to bring Wong back. We've got Dr. Hu. We've got Jacob. We've got a ton of Hong Kongers that are going to join us. Descent into Hell Part 7. It's the crisis in Hong Kong. This crisis was triggered by a group of high school students and college students that would not buckle under the tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party. It's War Room Pandemic. Hashtag War Room Pandemic. Go and give us your comments.
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's super strong articulating arm that's attached with an ingenious ball and socket so it can swivel and rotate for the perfect angle. And look how strong it holds. The mirror is precision crafted with 10 times magnification and crystal clear optics. And with a soft glow LED ring, you'll get picture-perfect lighting to highlight every detail. Flexible Mirror makes shaving, applying makeup, hairstyling, grooming, and accessorizing easier than ever before. Plus, men, listen up. The 10 times magnification makes it perfect for giving your beard a detailed trim. Whatever you need to do, Flexible Mirror comes to you. Plus, the contemporary chrome accents add a lovely modern touch to any room. Stop struggling to put in your delicate contacts and let Flexible Mirror come to you, so it's much easier to do. Similar mirrors can cost as much as $100, and they don't even come to you. But you can get Flexible Mirror for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. We guarantee you'll love the Flexible Mirror so much that it comes with our 90-day, no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the best part. We give you free shipping on your entire order. That's right, free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-987-6183. That's 1-800-987-6183 or order online at tryflexiblemirror.com.
From roof to foundation, the damage to your home can be devastating from clogged gutters, leaking roofs, rotting wood and fascia, and flooded basements. Protect your entire home with Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system. Once our ladders go up, you can put yours down forever.
One of the things that I like the most is that I don't have to get back on the ladder anymore.
Leaf Filter starts by cleaning, sealing, and realigning your gutters. We then install our micro mesh screen over your existing gutters, which is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water.
Trying other products is what made us finally go to Leaf Filter.
And Leaf Filter's lifetime transferable warranty makes it an extraordinary value.
Leaf Filter is going to make my home more valuable, especially when I go to sell it.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Call or log on today and save 15%.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Descent into Hell Part 7, the crisis in Hong Kong. I want to go back to Wong quickly because we got so many people to get in here. Wong, what did you think of the President of the United States talk in the Rose Garden yesterday? And what help, if any, are people in Hong Kong looking for from the American citizens and other people listening to the show?
All right. So actually, when we talk about the Hong Kong issue, actually, I always explain to the people that the issue for Hong Kong is not only the issue for Hong Kong only. So what I mean here is, so if you look through, actually, the CCP is behind all the disasters, right? So CCP took back the Hong Kong, but refuses to hold its promise. That's why we have the protests going on, right? So CCP is suppressing the people in Tibet. That's why people there want freedom, right? So the CCP is suppressing the free information flow in mainland China. And that's exactly why we have this pandemic, right? So if you look through, CCP is behind all those disasters. And that's why I say, so if we want to help Hong Kong, Hong Kong is only the part of the issue. Actually, to save the people in Hong Kong, it's pretty much the same to save the people in mainland China. So first of all, we have to take down the firewall in mainland China. So second of all, so if you actually, Mr. Bannon, if you ever lived in mainland China, you would know that CCP is all about money. They are all about money. So we should focus on the money side also and the capital side. So what can we do there? So how about we freeze the bank account for the top Chinese officials in the United States? And then to follow the money, and how about we freeze up the CCP state-owned assets in the United States? And, actually, I just read an article. They say that pretty much 80% of the international transactions are actually ultimately cleared by using the American financial system. So how about we cut CCP out of the transaction system? I'm not sure if that is the right way to call it, but this can be called the decoupling, right? So I think it's pretty much the same can be done for Hong Kong dollars. So those are the ways that we can do to contain the CCP. So, Mr. Bannon, I remember you talked on your show several times. There are so many noises. We have to look for where the real signal is, right? The true signal, the real signal is the CCP. CCP is the enemy that we are facing. And what do we do? Whatever the tools that we're going to use, we have to keep in mind that we want to take down CCP, and this is our ultimate goal. So I think those just to name a list, those are methods that we can use to help the issue within China and Hong Kong. And also maybe what about delist those stocks the CCP owned in the United States, right? So I think we have pretty much actually quite a few tool sets that we can use.
Wong, I want to thank you very much for joining us. I know it's always a danger. Anytime any Chinese voice comes forward, the CCP wants to go find their families, wants to find everything. So thank you very much for joining us here on Descent into Hell Part 7. Appreciate your voice. Thank you, Wong. We're going to get Dr. Jacob is going to be the next one. Before we get to Jacob, this is what's amazing. What he just laid, and here, hey, you heard it from a guy who came from mainland China. The signal and the noise. You got many noises, Mr. Bannon, but one signal. Take down CCP. This is what's so amazing about this movement. If the CCP thinks they're going to break these guys, they got another thing coming. They're prepared to go all in. And here's what's amazing what he just said. Think about the level of sophistication. You've got all the money transactions. You've got their assets. They're all about money. They're not communists. They're dictators. They're all about money. Seize their assets. Seize their bank accounts. Everything he's talking about, and what President Trump was talking about, the free trade, and what Long said, and all of them, when you meet these guys, they don't mind bringing it down around their heads, and they understand that their futures are gone. That's what's so powerful about these young people. What did they say in the tape? They're never going to be able to get a job. They're never going to be able to finish high school, and they don't care. They understand this is the fight for universal value, for freedom and democracy. Right there, what he advocated would make his life, would make the life of people in China, mainland China, harder. They don't care because he says that's all noise. The signal is take down CCP, right? That's why this is a historic moment. If you don't think this is 1938, you're kidding yourself. It is 1938. And what you saw with Donald Trump today, you know what? He said, guess what? I'm not going to be Neville Chamberlain, right? I'm not going to be Neville Chamberlain. The West made that mistake in the 1930s. Now we've got a depression on top of a pandemic, on top of an economic inferno, on top of a geopolitical crisis. It's all the 1930s compressed into one period of time. He could take the easy way out. He could take the Biden way out. We try to be very even-handed on this show. We try to go out. We're hardcore partisans. We try to go out of our way to try to balance this. On this one, there's no balance. There's just not. This is globalist versus nationalist. This is Joe Biden is infected, and this is what I do blame the Bernie movement for the following. 2 pillow fights back to back. The pillow fight with Hillary Clinton in 2016 and the pillow fight with Joe Biden. Note to self, please, the Bernie bros and the AOCs, you got to write this down. Write this down. It's a knife fight, not a pillow fight. Okay? You're trying to take control and have power in the most powerful country in the history of mankind. Okay? If you're going to fight, fight. Take a lesson from the high school kids in China. I want that tape played on a roll on our site. I want it just to be on a constant roll. Just take that lesson from people 16 and 17 years old, what they have to show us. It is a direct link, an unbroken chain back to the Patriots of 1775. That's what I kept saying in June of last year. When these kids first started getting tear gas, I said, oh, my Lord, they're Hong Kong kids. All they care about is money. And it turns out they had very deep spiritual values. They had read the philosophy of the founding fathers. On top of that, they had seen Red Dawn. They had both the yin and the yang of American culture, from the sublime to the less sublime. Okay? But they got it and they put it in there, because actually Red Dawn is quite a deep picture film too, if you think about it, what those kids stood for. And now I want to, because of my tirades, we're not going to be able to get to everybody today, but I'm trying to contextualize. What Wong did, I could hug Wong. Mr. Bannon, you say this all the time, many noises, few signals. Okay, Wong, thank you. You're going to be a co-host before too long. Many noises, he's summed up. There are many noises, there are few signals. Here's our signal. Take down CCP. Everything else is just, you're getting off point, including if we got to bring down hell on us financially and economically. What they're saying is that we understand that we're sacrificing our well-being for future generations. That's moral courage. The CCP, when you take the moral high ground like that, remember, war comes in 3 phases. Just let me simplify it. Number 1, you have to take the moral high ground because you have to have people prepared to sacrifice everything for victory. Number 2 is leave a smoking hole where complete unconditional surrender where your opponent is. Number 3, fill up said hole with your stuff, okay, your values. That's Ulysses Grant. I come from the South. Sherman and Grant got the message. Must break the Confederacy. Fill it back up with our stuff. Okay, unconditional surrender. Unconditional surrender in World War II. We're not going to negotiate. Unconditional surrender. That's what this is about. When Donald Trump came in today in the Rose Garden, yesterday in the Rose Garden, and said, I'm not going to be Neville Chamberlain. Okay? Maybe I didn't list out 30 actions, but I listed out enough that are important. Let's bring in now Jacob. Jacob, you're a Hong Konger, Jacob, and I want to tell people, are the Hong Kongers going to back down? Jack Leung said in the last hour they're not, but I want to hear it from your voice. You tell us where right now the Hong Kongers stand as the Chinese Communist Party, as darkness starts to fall on Hong Kong with this National Security Act. Where are you guys?
Sure. Hi, Mr. Bannon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what's happening in Hong Kong. And to answer your question, no, we're not backing down. And I'm a Hong Konger, and I'm an active participant in the pro-democracy movement since last year. And I was one of those 9,000 people who got arrested by the police and facing prosecution, which could result in imprisonment with the maximum sentences of 10 years. And my cousin, who is a young female med student with a bright future, was also arrested last Sunday. And you must wonder why and how did we get arrested in Hong Kong. But the problem is you don't need to be radical or violent to get arrested in Hong Kong today. You can be arrested by the police just because you're chanting slogans in shopping malls or sticking posters on the streets or even wearing black. And the police aren't just arresting young people. The government in Hong Kong now is literally suppressing everyone who opposes the government. And we have seen more and more professionals, retired teachers, lawyers getting arrested too. So this is the predicament Hong Kongers are facing right now. The CCP is tightening at its grip on Hong Kong, and we all know that. But there is nothing much Hong Kongers could do to resist except taking onto the street to protest, to make our voice heard. But the stick of doing so is getting higher and higher. Not only will we be being brutally suppressed by the police, we will also be facing dire consequences imposed by our legal system. So take me as an example. My life has been seriously disrupted by the trials that I'm going through right now because the court will resist you from traveling and have you obliged to curfew orders. But despite all these challenges we're facing, Hong Kongers have never thought of backing down because we know giving up or surrender is not really an option right now.
Jacob, can you hang for 1 second? I want to keep you over through this commercial break, and I've got some more questions to ask you. This is this is brought to you by John Frederick's Radio Network and Americans Voice .net or .news on Dish Channel 219. I want to thank our production partners here to help us produce these specials we do on Saturday. This is Descent into Hell Part 7, War and Pandemic. Go to hashtag War and Pandemic. Tell us what you think. Be back in a moment.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy-on, easy-off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy-on, easy-off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy-on, easy-off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do. With Copperfit, I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your Copperfit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, Copperfit Energy Socks.
Some people say dress your age. That's ridiculous. I dress how I feel. Yesterday, I felt bold with boundless energy. This morning, I woke up calm and unbreakable. Tomorrow, who knows? Age is just an illusion. How you show up for the world, that's what's real. What's your idea? I put it out there with the GoDaddy website. Make the world you want.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
With over 100 million views and almost 9 million downloads on the podcast, one of the biggest and most important shows internationally throughout the globe. It is War Room Pandemic, where every Saturday we get the voices of the Chinese people. Remember, when we talk about the Chinese Communist Party, they've enslaved the Chinese people. This is all about their freedom, whether that's in Hong Kong, Taiwan, in mainland China, even in the United States. Although they're American citizens, many of the Chinese here have become national, and they're American citizens. And guess what? They're still under the boot in the reach of the Chinese Communist Party. Every time I talk to expatriate Chinese that are here, it is the fear in their voice. They live in a country that's free. They love the United States. They're fabulous citizens, but they will tell you, if the Chinese Communist Party finds them being outspoken, they will go arrest their family in mainland China. And these guys, they play hardball the entire time. Want to go back to Jacob right now. Jacob, as someone that's been active participant in this democracy movement, and have really seen it gone from an umbrella movement to now real insurgency and really standing up to the Chinese Communist Party, what are you looking for? Yesterday in the Rose Garden, President Trump laid out really the firmest thing, although a lot of people are saying it wasn't enough. It was the first time, that President Trump really stood and said, hey, he never said she's my friend in this one, right? This was a very somber, there was gravitas. He had his top advisors around him, Robert O'Brien, the National Security Advisor, Mike Pompeo, the West Point graduate who's the Secretary of State, Peter Navarro, the Uber hawk over there in the manufacturing. He had some real fire breathers up there. What are the protesters in Hong Kong looking for from the West?
So Hong Kong has always been in the front line of battling the CCP government. So back in 2014, which we call that the Umbrella Revolution, we have been already fighting very hard for democracy in Hong Kong. But the CCP government never really honored their promises. But right now, the battle against CCP in Hong Kong has intensified because the CCP government is trying to impose the national security law in Hong Kong. So this marks the end of the so-called one country, two system. And I really believe that the world should back Hong Kong up, just like how the West supported West Berlin during the Cold War. And I really appreciate what Mr. Trump announced yesterday. So what really worries us due to the new law is that because the CCP government could send their special agents to enforce the laws in Hong Kong, which is outrageous because we never know whether they will adopt someone who they don't like to back to China. So this is really serious. So we really implore the world to stay together and to stand up against the CCP government.
You said something there, Jacob. I wanted, particularly for our audience that remembers this. Many of our audience are great admirers of President Reagan, and particularly the way that President Reagan went against the elite, the foreign policy elites in our country, and really stood up to the Soviets. You just equated Hong Kong with West Berlin. Tell me, what do you mean by that? Because that's kind of shocking. When Americans think of Hong Kong, they think of this capitalist island that it's a capital market that people don't really care about politics that much. And I understand they've seen these protests, but it's making that analogy to West Berlin, I think, would wake up a lot of people in the West who remember all the dark days under communism in Eastern Europe.
Well, because if you are following the Chinese news, you will notice that what the CCP is doing right now is that they're doing what we call wolf warrior diplomacy, wolf war diplomacy. So now they are hoping to divide the pro-democracy camps in the world through infiltration, bribery, or the so-called One Belt, One Road initiatives. So they have been doing all these things in the past few years. And so I think, I hate to say this, but I think we and as well as the whole world has made a mistake by, letting the CCP go after what they did in 1989, the Tiananmen massacre. So back at that time, the world did try to sanction China for a little bit, but very soon they let them go, and they let the beast out from the cage again. And I know that the world at that time hoped that by letting China join the WTO or other trade organizations in the world, they could become more democratized when their economy takes off. But that never happens. So I think what China is doing is leveraging all these loopholes in the world, and they are trying to export their authoritarian ideology to the whole world. And I think this is not acceptable. So I implore the world to stand with Hong Kong, because it's really time to choose freedom over profits.
One last thing before we let you go, Jacob, and obviously you're incredibly inspiring, as all you young people are there standing up. This summer, Jack Leung in the first hour has said, hey, you're going to see this summer escalation. The Chinese Communist Party, particularly with the new law, think they're going to use sedition and a crackdown on the police to break us. But you're going to see us scaling up in this. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, sadly, I do agree, because with the law being imposed in Hong Kong, I think this allows Chinese to further tighten its grip in Hong Kong. So I like what I've said. They're allowed to send their special agents in Hong Kong. And let me remind the audience about an outrageous incident happened in 2015. So back in 2015, the Chinese government sent their special agents from China and to abduct several Hong Kong booksellers back to China, just because they're selling books that the Chinese government didn't really like. And they were forced to make confession video and threaten not to reveal the truth about the abductions. So these things keep happening in Hong Kong. And with the new law being enacted, I do believe things will get worse in Hong Kong if the international community isn't doing anything to really force China to stop doing this.
Jacob, I want to thank you for joining us. I know it takes a lot of bravery. It takes a lot of bravery what you're doing in the streets, and it takes a lot of bravery to come on the show. So we greatly appreciate it. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bannon.
I think what the world saw in the last 48 hours, 72 hours, is you're seeing now the victory of these kids for not breaking. High school kids. They didn't break, but they did something that the Richard Haas's in the Wall Street faction and everybody that's kind of said, oh, the Washington Post had this editorial, Haas had this big story out. It has to be graduate. We're concerned. It's what these guys are mocking. I don't want to hear concern anymore. We don't need your concern. We need your engagement if you believe in freedom and democracy, right? Otherwise, inexorably, we're going to be drawn into a kinetic war. We either stop the lessons of history are ironclad in this. You either stop it or it metastasizes, because it's not going to go away. It's very much like the school grounds where you don't stop the bully, it just gets worse and it never gets better. At some point in time, you've got to confront it. You've got to take it on. We're at that moment. We're at that moment, and you've heard the voices of these kids saying, hey, I could be killed, I could be imprisoned. This guy's already been arrested. He's one of the 9,000 still up on charges. They're saying, we're not going to break.
And what's also so important, I think it's important for our listeners to understand this, these guys see this as a bigger mission than Hong Kong. In fact, they know that they may not win in Hong Kong, right? But the objective is to free 1.4 billion people and the other 6 billion people who are in line to be enslaved next by this evil empire.
You heard of Thermopylae? right? Come on. There's exact same. There's an unbroken chain. This is what Pottinger was saying, which the mainstream media. This has told you how corrupt and incompetent and lazy. It's either corruption or laziness. Pottinger comes out and gives a talk exactly about that. Pottinger comes out in perfect Mandarin, which freaked him out. He's the Deputy National Security Advisor, a terrific young man, former Wall Street Journal correspondent in Beijing, left to go into the Marine Corps during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and go over in military intelligence, where he met General Flynn, became one. It was the very first hire after we won under General Flynn. The very first guy is now Deputy National Security Advisor. He gives this talk at the University of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson's University. It was not lost on him what he was doing. The author, or at least the head of the committee for the Declaration of Independence, and Pottinger gives a talk that ties together the ancient philosophical underpinnings of the Judeo-Christian West and ties it to the philosophical underpinnings of 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago of the May 4th movement. The May 4th movement in China is when May 4th, 1911, when they threw off the empire that had ruled them for on and off. I mean, it ruled them continually for 4,000 years or 3,000 years with different ruling families, but threw it off and formed a republic. That sold the bonds that Jana is on, Bianco is on with us, that the Chinese Communist Party stiffed us on, right? Stiffed the deplorables. It all ties together. We're going to connect all the dots. That ties together Thermopylae to what happened in Hong Kong. You don't need to watch some science fiction of the 300. I love it. You don't need to watch these cartoons. You don't need to go watch a cartoon about some, Captain America. And I love all that, but you don't need to go watch a cartoon to look for heroes. You have heroes, and everybody out there in this audience said, "Oh, if it was during the Revolution, I'd be there with the Patriots. If it was during the Civil War, I'd be out there. If it was during World War II, yeah, I'd be fighting Hitler. I'd be the first guy that volunteered. I'd volunteer in 1939, right? I'd be volunteering for the Royal Air Force." Right? I know you guys read history. I would be there. You're here now. And those kids, their victory, and they've already had a huge victory. What the high school kids did led to Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, in direct lineage, in an unbroken chain, to Ronald Reagan and Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Jackson and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, in an unbroken chain of the greatest republic in mankind's history and the most powerful nation in the history of mankind that has freed more people than any nation in the history of this earth in all 4 billion years. Okay? And these kids and the people that come on the show are in direct as the unbroken chain of Donald J. Trump in that Rose Garden back to the beginning of this republic, and even before the beginning of this republic. In 1775, in those years, 1773, when they were revving it up in Boston and revving it up in Philadelphia and other places throughout the country, that unbroken chain is in Hong Kong today, right? You can't deny it anymore. I tell you who knows this. The Chinese Communist Party knows it. Beijing knows it. They are prepared to walk away. Look at what Donald Trump said. We're going to cut your trade status. We're going to delist your companies. We're going to cut you off from capital markets. You're not going to have access to technology. We're going to cut your visas so you can't come here. We're eventually going to freeze your assets. We're going to do it all. And the Chinese Communist Party is telling you and saying, it says, hey, guess what? We don't care. We can take the hit. You know why? It's more important to us to stop those high school kids in Hong Kong, because the Chinese Communist Party is evil, but it's smart. And they understand the power of those kids not surrendering. They understand if those kids don't surrender, Beijing is going to fall. They understand that. They've got to stop that. The entire regime depends upon that. We're going to take a short commercial break. More voices from Hong Kong in a moment.
The
hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
There's a crisis in Hong Kong, but there's also a crisis throughout the world. This pandemic has really triggered an economic inferno and a financial crisis. Remember, in these times, if you're an entrepreneur, you need every tool at your disposal in order to make things turn out the way you want them to turn out. Remember, the single most important thing about an entrepreneur is not just the fact you've got to be bold. If fortune favors boldness, but you have to understand how to mitigate risk. One of the ways to do that, you get NetSuite by Oracle. This is already in 20,000 companies. This is the software package for the entrepreneur, whether your company's $1 million in revenue or $100 million in revenue. Here's what they're offering. Go to our site, netsuite.com/Bannon. It can take you into the 7 things you have to think about right now in this crisis as an entrepreneur. Even if you don't get the software, it shows you, it breaks down what you have to do, what you have to think about, whether it's capital asset pricing, whether it's your financial projections, whether it's human resources, e-commerce, all of it. And they tie it together to help you think as an entrepreneur. So remember, our sponsor, NetSuite by Oracle. Jack, you've got an analogy that you've been talking about for a while from Nazi Germany.
Well, I don't know if many of you know the White Rose movement. You probably know of Sophie Scholl, who was a wonderful young college student in Munich who was executed on February 22nd of 1943 for having passed out pamphlets critical of the regime. And her situation reminded me very much of the courage of these Hong Kong students who are out there doing exactly what she did, opposing evil, full well knowing the danger of it. And there were two things I want to read that she was quoted as saying. She was only allowed one sentence in defense in the court, and the Roland Freiser, the People's Court, which we all know, a terroristic court similar to the CCP's courts. And she said, somebody, after all, had to make a start. What we wrote and said is also believed by many others. They just don't dare express themselves as we did. The next day she was executed. On her way to the gallows, she said this: such a fine sunny day, and I have to go. What does my death matter if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?
That is pretty good sum up for the students in Hong Kong, Jack. Fantastic. I want to introduce Dixon Ho now. Dixon, you're a Hong Konger. Let me ask you, the whole deal was supposed to be one country, two systems. You've been there from the beginning. Where do we stand right now, and what are the Hong Kongers really fighting for, and what are you looking for the West? There's some confusion, I think, in the West of exactly what's going on. Tell us exactly what's going on, and what are you guys looking for?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bannon. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Yes. Also, I'm Dixon Ho, an exhibition curator of Hong Kong. It's a very common Hong Konger who are also shocked as well to see my home coming to this stage of chaos. But after all the speakers before me, now I would like to put the issue to a bigger institutional context. To say that like the whole thing now is actually should not be that surprised after if you think back all the things happening in Hong Kong. Well, because like in my view, like the one country two systems or the basic law are not reliable from their very beginning. And the reason behind it's simple, that while we Hong Kongers are promised to have all kinds of freedom and rights as any developed big country, there's no punishment on CCP for violating them. There's no mechanism in the basic law on that, nor the joint declaration. The British people simply just sold us to China. So after all, CCP never had any consequences for offending the basic law or destroying the two systems. And that's why it can become more and more aggressive for us. And Hong Kongers, after all, can only humbly wish the CCP to be kind, to voluntarily refrain their power and behave themselves. But how come it is possible, right? I mean, like, we are talking about a regime massacre hundreds of innocent students at Tiananmen Square in 1989. And it is not only about the CCP, actually, right? Like, I mean, like, if you look back to history, like, no dictator does not abuse their power, and no dictator does not corrupt. Otherwise, there won't be revolutions in France back then, or no independent war in America at all. And we don't need democracy and all that modern system to restrict power holders. Well, after, like, what I mean here is the key issue of Hong Kong right now is that we are under the rule of an authoritarian regime. So it is so expected that they abuse their power, infringe our rights and autonomy, and the basic law is doomed to fail. And two systems are also doomed to be destroyed. And Hong Kong now falling this present stage of chaos. And the protest now, as like Mr. Bannon you also speak that previously, is the revolution, is the war against dictatorship of our time. And on that note, I also really appreciate that the American government now has started to realize that Hong Kong is no longer autonomy from China, especially with the coming national security law. And I appreciate that the measurements, that the strong action that coming to Hong Kong.
Dixon, thank you very much. We got to jump. We're going to do an extension of this probably next weekend to get with this Hong Kong crisis is not going to go away. We got to get more voices. I want to thank Dixon Ho, one of the Hong Kong residents. I want to thank the bravery for all the Chinese today that came on the show, because there's immense pressure, particularly among their families, that they will be arrested and their families will be arrested and basically turned out. What's going on in Hong Kong is triggering a crisis, a geopolitical crisis throughout the world. Yesterday, you saw in the Rose Garden where the 45th president of the United States, you know what Donald Trump basically did yesterday? He said nothing's inevitable. Human action and human agency are going to make the difference here. He could have taken every different alternative of that, right? Like Neville Chamberlain took. People were all over Trump to go soft, to just say a few things. And some people, and particularly the super hawks, sitting there going, hey, it's not hard enough. We need to throw down. He stood up and he started a process. There was no, she's my friend. She's doing a great job. It was the exact opposite. This is War Room Pandemic. We've been honored to do these shows every Saturday. This is Descent into Hell number 7. Hashtag War Room Pandemic is the way you participate in this community. And believe me, by your participation, you're changing world history. You have had a major impact already. You know why? Because as many of the speakers come on today about CCTV is on me. You know why they're on me? Because of you. They understand the power of the deplorables, and they understand the power of the Lai Beijing or 100 names. They do not, under any circumstances, want you two to partner. Okay, we've got a special on WABC tomorrow night, and we'll be back on Monday morning at 10. See you then. War Room Pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because